Hey everyone, this is exercise 9.2 of Murach's Visual Basic 2015, working with strings. So I have the application open and we're going to start with, I guess this is step 2, which is when somebody enters a name and clicks on the parse name button, the application is supposed to break up the user's name into first, middle, and last name, and then also convert the parse name so the first letter of each word is uppercase but the other letters are lowercase. And then it gives an example of what it's supposed to look like. So I'm going to double click on the button to get my event handler started, and there's quite a bit of work to do here, so let's get into it. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just make a variable called full name, and I'm just going to grab the user's name as I inputted it, and then I'm also going to take that and I'm going to run it through the trim function. So that's going to get rid of any white space on the beginning or the end of it. And then I'm going to have, I want an array and let's see here. This wants a char. Okay, wanted to get rid of my errors and I'll explain what's going on. So I'm taking full name and I'm going to split it on spaces. Now, split of full name requires a char, and this single space here is by default a string. So I'm converting it to a char, setting it to the split function, and so name parts at this point should be the different bits of my I guess you would say of my name. So I'm going to put a breakpoint in there. Let's see if this works. So let's not overcomplicate it too much right now. Alright, so it's my name. I put some empty spaces at the end. The trim should take care of that. And when I hit parse name, name parts is nothing. Let's see if I remember how to do this. Step into. Alright, so now name parts has a length of 2. If I look at it, it's Eric and Nagel. So name parts 0 is Eric and name parts 1 is Nagel. And you see full name has been trimmed when we input it, or when we import it. It takes the spaces off at the end. It'll also take the spaces off at the middle, or I'm sorry, in the beginning. And so we have our name. Great, that worked just fine. Get rid of my breakpoint. I don't need that anymore. Alright, now that we have my name, I want to make some variables to store the first name, middle name, and last name. And then what I want to do is I want to look at how big my array is of names. Do this. So if the name part's length is 3 names, we know we have first, middle, last. So what I'm going to do is first name equals name parts 0. First, middle, last. And then else if name parts dot length is equal to 2, then, well, I'll put a comment in here. We just have first and last. So first name equals name parts of 1, last name equals Oops, sorry, this should be 0. And this is 1. And we can go a little bit further. Else if name parts dot length is equal to 1, then this is like Madonna. So first name equals name parts of 0. And else, I have no idea. All right, there's way too many names here. So I'm just going to do message box dot show what does it not like here? We're good now? Nope. It really doesn't like this end sub in here. So this is unexpected, but I'm going to move this. How am I going to get rid of this? Let's see. Alright, so that's happy. Apparently it doesn't like having an end sub within the else. Alright, so let's do this. Let's say name parts.length is greater than 3. Then we have no idea what's going on. Can I put an end sub here? Alright, let's start at the top then. I know why. My bad. Let's go back to where I started screwing this up. We don't want end sub, we want to exit sub. Alright. Sorry about that, we took a little detour. So, you know, if the length is not 1, 2, or 3, then we have no idea what to do with the person's name. And great, so now we're at this point. I'm going to do dim my name message as string, and my name message. So we know at this point the user definitely has a first name. So we can put that onto my name message. What we don't know is, you know, in this case and in this case, they don't have a last name. So we want to make sure that we're only adding, I'm sorry, middle name. We're only adding middle name if there is a middle name. So if middle name, I'm going to do what is not empty. Okay, great. So if middle name is not empty, then we're going to add to the message middle name, a tab, and the middle name. Oops. Better put a new line at the end, otherwise this gets to be a long string. And I'm going to take that and do the same thing with last name. Okay, so this builds my string, and then I'm going to message box dot show my name message. I'm calling this string handling. Put an ingenious name. All right, so this is the basics of this. So I put some spaces in the beginning that'll get trimmed off. 2 names. First name Eric, last name Nagel. Sounds good. add my middle name to it, Eric Scott Nagel, that looks good. And then if it's Madonna using this, there's only a first name. Pretty good. You do have a problem that, if the user puts in multiple spaces in the middle, too many names, because you have one name here and then it broke on the space, it thinks the middle name's here, then there's too much going on here. So what we want to do is we're going to add some code to take the full name and not only trim it, but remove any double spaces within the name. Alright, so right here I want to, and I'm not removing, I'm going to replace any double space with single space. So something like that will eventually become that. Alright, this is a little bit more advanced, but it shouldn't be anything really too challenging. So let's start with, we can take full name and use the replace function. And we're going to say we're going to replace a double space with a single space. Alright, and let me put a breakpoint in. So Eric space Nagel, I hit parse name, and you see now that if I copy that, oh, we're still space. Oh, I need to alright, we need to do that. So now you can see there's one space there in Eric.Nagel. But what happens if we run it with Eric and a bunch of spaces, Nagel? Hit parse name. It took the 2 spaces and replaced it with 1 space, but there's still more double spaces in there. So what we need to do is we need to do this in a loop, and we're going to loop through that as many times as it takes. So as long as we're making a change, we're going to loop through this and make this change. So here's how we do this. Alright, I'm going to put a loop in, and I want a do loop while. And the thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this temp name. This is going to get thrown out later. It's a string, and that is equal to full name replace. By the way, instead of this, you could really just, and that's not elegant, but you could say replace double space with single space and do it whatever 10 times, and hopefully you catch everything. I don't like working on hopefully you catch everything, so we're actually going to make a loop that will grab it all. And we're going to make this change, and then what I want to do is I want to see if a change was actually made. So if temp name is equal to full name, then I'm going to say that a change was not made. So I need a variable called change made as a boolean, and then I'm going to say change made is equal to false. So if I try to replace double spaces with a single space, and I'm going to store that back into temp name. If temp name and full name are the same thing, then change made is equal to false. Okay? Otherwise, change made is equal to true, and I'm going to take full name and set it to temp name. And I'm going to keep doing this while change made, and basically this is saying while change made is equal to true. And this boolean starts off as false. Alright, let me put a breakpoint in here, and let's run this. See what happens. I'm going to put some spaces in. So spaces in the middle here, run parse name. So name is this, and temp name is now this. So this is a little bit, should be a little bit shorter than, oh no, we already overwrote that change. But if you watch full name, I'm going to step. If we keep walking through it, there, temp name just changed. We're testing it. We should then update full name. So change made is still true because we made a change again. Run it again. We created temp name. We updated it. And we're just going to keep walking through this. Now, if you look, Eric Nagel only has one space in it. Again, we create temp name. We look to see if they're the same. If they are the same, this change made should switch to false now. Yep, change made is false. So now our loop is going to exit, and then we run into name parts and we break it out. And now look, we have two names. So we took off, using trim, we took off the space at the beginning of and the end, and then using this loop, we cleared off any double spaces to a single space. Alright, so that's what this does. I'm going to get rid of my breakpoint. I'm just adding some comments here so we know what's going on. I thought I already had this. Maybe I hit undo too many times. Because this says, yeah, I remember typing this out, but I must have hit undo too many times at some point. Alright, so no breakpoints. When I run this, I can put in a bunch of spaces like that, hit parse name, it cleans it up, first name, last name. Great. One of the things it doesn't do, though, is if I enter it all with lowercase words, it outputs it that way. And I don't want that. I want a name to be shown as, you know, first letter capitalized, the rest of the name lowercase. So let's do this. Let's I'm going to call this UC first. Alright, there we go. So UC first is going to take in a string, in this case is name, and what we're going to do is we're going to say name equals string to, sorry, too many different languages here, allocase. So we're going to convert the entire thing to lowercase. Actually, let's do it this way. I'm going to break it up even further. There's probably efficient ways to do this, but I want to show you step by step what's going to happen here. So I have the name as a lowercase, and I have upper name. And then I'm going to say name equals, and I'm going to take upper name substring from 0 to 1, and the lower names substring from 1 until the length. I need lower name dot length. I think I have to put a -1 there. So I create a variable called lower name, which is the input, all is lowercase, and then create a variable called upper name, which is the input, all is uppercase. And then I'm going to take my variable that came in, I'm going to set it to the first character. So I'm taking a substring at position 0, length 1 from the uppercase name, and then I'm adding it to pretty much the rest of the lowercase name. And I wonder if that's even required. I'm trying to get IntelliSense to come up here. Well, let's just hit F1 and see. What does it say about... Okay, so if you only give one, here we go. If you only give one argument to substring starts at the specified character position and continues to the end of the string. That's what we want. So that's going to take us all the way to the end of the string. And that gets returned. So now if I, oops, I never called my function. Let's get out of here. Parse name, there we go. Alright, so it's all, that worked nicely. This is kind of long, I think. In reality, when we bring the string in, what I could do is, so I'm going to return name.substring 0,1 dot, I'm going to take this and send it through ucase. So this will take name, which is my input, substring 01, so this is going to be the first character, and it's going to make it an uppercase character, and it's going to append to it the rest of the string converted to lowercase. Put those things together, and that gets returned. So it should be a little bit cleaner. There we go. I like that. Alright, so I think we're done with step 2. I know that was pretty long for step 2. We did some things that are a little bit beyond a normal ask, like this whole part, replacing the doubles and such. But I like to do things, I don't know, I guess all the way here. Show you some additional tips to make your code a little bit better. Alright, let's go on to step 4. So step 3 is just testing to make sure that works. We've been testing as we go along. Step 4 is when somebody enters a phone number, we want to take what's entered. We're going to show that. We're going to show the numbers only, and then we're going to format it in a certain way. So I'm going to start with by trimming the user's input and saving it like that. And we're going to create another string called numbers only. Now, I looked at the solution in the book, and the solution in the book pretty much says, you know, replace, they'll take like, they'll do numbers only, well, we'll start with numbers only equals user input, and then numbers only equals numbers only dot replace, and they say, you know, replace that with that, and they, you know, assume that the user is just entering these things, which is fine, but you miss out on everything else. You know, what if the user puts an extension in there, or they put a plus in there, or whatever they put in there doesn't get caught, and that's not really numbers only. So I don't like that solution. So what we're going to do is, I have my string called numbers only, and I'm going to loop through the user's input, and we're going to start this off simple. If the user input is equal to 1, then numbers only so we're adding on to this numbers only string. The user's input is a 1, then add on to it. And we're going to keep going. We're going to say if the user's input is a 1, or else, I don't know why it didn't give me a new line there. User input of I equal to 2, or else, and we're going to keep doing this. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. So if the user's input is a 1 or a 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 or 0, then we have this numbers only string. So what's nice about doing it this way is that, you know, it does handle something like this, but also, you know, it could put any other garbage in there and it handles it, whereas the book solution only handles the ones you say to pull out of there. This isn't extremely elegant because it's a lot of code copy and pasted, but, you know, you can look at regular expressions if you want to clean this up a little bit more, make the code nicer. We're not getting into regular expressions right now, though. Okay, so we have this idea of standard format. And we're actually going to set standard format to be numbers only. We want a substring of it from 0 to 3. And at this point, the book actually says, for simplicity, you can assume the user enters 10 digits. But, you know, somewhere in here we could look at the length of numbers only, make sure it's 10, and if not, show an error message or whatnot. But we don't need to do that because the book says don't worry about it. And to the book, the standard format is 3 numbers and then 3 more numbers and then the last 4 numbers. So we just took the substring from 0 to 3, or the substring of 0 to 2 really, because it's the length of 3, the substring from 3, a length of 3, and then from 6, a length of 4. So at this point, we should have something like this for the phone number. And great, now it's time to show off what we have. I guess we'll build a message. So what the user entered, we'll give them that, we'll give them the full thing, what they entered. And this is just coming from page 311, step 4. That's that. All right, so we run this thing. Phone number, so I'm going to put in 716.555.1212. Oh, we went too far. Index and length must refer to the location with the ring parameter length. Ah, interesting. Numbers only dropped the 7. That's where the debugging can be useful. Oh, because when we started counting at 1. Really, we should be counting at 0. Alright, let's try that again. Okay, pretty good. Entered, the word entered is a little shorter than digits only standard format. Standard format's missing a colon, so I'm going to add a colon there and add another tab in there. And entered, it looks like it's spaced over here. That's because my actual input, I added some spaces there. So this is perfect the way it is. All right, and then, you know, add some commenting in here so we know what's going on. I'm not going to do that, but you definitely should. And don't forget to continue with the application. That was step 5. Step 6, add an imports statement to the top. It actually comes up here. So line 1, if you don't have a blank line, make a blank line up there. This is before public class form 1. You're going to type imports system.text. This is importing a VB class so we can work with string builder, which is part of the systems.text. Turning the page, step 7, copy all the statements you wrote for step 4 except the message box. Paste the statements before the message box, then comment out the first of. Holy cow. Alright, so basically they want us to do this whole thing with a string builder. Alright, so I'm going to take these first couple of lines here, paste them here. I'm going to prefix my variables with SB, so I know these are string builders. And I obviously need to make these string builders. So the first one I'm going to, and when I make my new string builder, I'm going to put the user's input in there. I'm just going to trim it, call that user's input. And this other one has no default value. Okay, so now I have two string builders, SB user input and SB numbers only. I'm going to loop through them, do the same thing looking for numbers. So through here I'm just changing all of these to that. And then I'm going to call SB numbers only dot append, and I'm going to add to it SB user input of I. So let's see. What was this? I'll comment this out so we can see. What we used to do was we were taking the user input of position I and using the ampersand equals operator to add it to numbers only. But because we're using the string builder, we're using the append method and giving it to it this individual character, adding to our string builder. All right, so now we have our SB numbers only, and then we need to create this standard format. So I'm actually going to SB standard format as new string builder, and I'm giving to it the numbers only as a string. I'm going to pass that into the string builder. So I have this another string builder now called SB standard format. Instead of using substring though, I'm going to say SB standard format dot insert, and insert, you pick a position. So at spot 3 I want to insert a dash, and I want to do the same thing at spot 7. Alright, and now I'm going to take my message here. My phone message has already been declared, so I don't need to declare it again. I'm just going to reset it. And now, what the user inputted is the same thing. Instead of numbers only, we use SB numbers only, and that's an object, so we're going to convert it to a string. And same thing with standard format. We use SB standard format dot toString. That just gets created in the message, and I'm just going to make this this message box title is edit phone number string builder. So when I run this, I did a lot of coding here. Let's see if it works. This message box is our original code, not using string builder, just using the built-in Visual Basic functions. This one is using string builder, so it looks exactly the same, and that's what we want it to do, is look exactly the same. So depending on if you're following along with the book, you would take you would take a lot of this stuff and comment it out, but for my class, if you show 2 message boxes, that's great, as long as I can see somewhere that you used both the the built-in text functions, and then somewhere along the line you started using the string builder class. And comment on this stuff so I know that you know what's going on. And that is it for 9-2.